obviously we got promotion into that East Premier League, and the second season was probably, in terms of my time at Celtic, was probably the best season that we had.
Yeah.
I say that it was the most rewarding in terms of what we've done that season.
Yeah, because that was massive season for Celtic, also for yourself as well. For Celtic, it was making the way back into the Super League. There was that huge game against Lithgow Rose at East End Park as well. And for yourself, I think that was the season where you picked up your first cap for Scotland junior football as well. So it was massive. I suppose where to start. I suppose the Scotland cap. What was it like? You joined Kelly, you've been there for a couple of seasons now, and you got that call up for the Scotland team. What was that like?
It was huge at the time. What still is a huge for any, to be. I know it's not prestigiously a cap, but it is. For the junior level, it's the highest level you can get. You're representing your country for a junior level. It was massive at the time. When you look at the board at Celtic, at the time, there wasn't very many Celtic players that had actually been a sort of Scotland internationalist. It was maybe 3, in Billy Spence and whatnot. There was a few, but you're starting to make your mark. You're thinking, right, I can kick on here and whatnot. I think that whole cap come about our Scottish Cup run actually. I seem to remember we played Whitburn in the Cup that year, and the Scotland, I didn't know at the time, but the Scotland manager was there watching Big Joe Maboo, who was at Whitburn at the time.
Right.
So, and Whitburn I think they'd won it the previous season, or they got to the final. I can't remember exactly, but they were a big team at the time. They were pushing, and they were seen as the favourites for that game. I remember doing quite well in that game, and there was sort of whispers that folk come up to me and saying, Scotland manager was impressed with you today, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, whatever. You didn't believe it. You know what I mean? But it come about, and then we went away and progressing through the season. Through the season, we're massive effort that year. It just sort of, it was weird because if you look back on that team, you wouldn't say it's the most productive. It wasn't the best Celtic team ever in terms of players, but it sort of just gelled that year when we had Mulkey up front, we had Lee Bailey up front, and they were really good. And Lee Bailey was coming towards the end of his career. Mulkey, who I knew from Cowdenbeath at the time, he was a big player to get at that time. He was highly thought of at Cowdenbeath. And to get him in, it was like, wow, Celtic and attracting Mike Mulkey, it was big.
No, massive, aye. And obviously, I mentioned it as well, the big game at East End Park as well against Linlithgow Rose. Obviously, it ended up being a bit of a disappointing result in the end, but I suppose that was the first massive, really big game for Celtic that you played in. What was it like heading back to East End Park for that one?
That was a bittersweet. It was really getting in the build up and everything. It was really, really good. We weren't there to make up the numbers. We were going to win. We played it down in the press, and I think Stevie was like, Allan Lithgow are the clear favourites. But the way that season was going, we were confident that we could go there and beat them. And it was just frustrating the way it ended. It was 30 seconds away from a penalty shootout, and I'm sure Celtic fans will back me up here. Again, I had a really good penalty record, and I was going to be my chance to be the hero. That was my chance to write myself in Celtic folklore. That's what I was preparing myself for, and then obviously it was taken away with 30 seconds to go. It was frustrating because after that we got promotion. We finished second in the Premier League, but after the cup final, it sort of the season sort of went flat, and I think a lot of the boys were just defeated. You know, deflated from the Junior Cup loss. But it was an experience. I think it was the highest attendance at East End that year.
Yeah, I know it was huge.
To be fair, I've never watched it back. I refuse to do it. We got a copy. I don't even know where my medal is. I have no idea what it is because I've never looked at my medal. I've never watched the game back again. I refuse to do it.
Yeah, no, it was like you said, it was an achievement to get there, but it was a frustrating one and a hard one to take. Obviously, after that season, it was massive getting back into the Super League again for Kelty, but there was a couple of tricky seasons that came about at the beginning of that sort of time back in the Super League, and I think it was around about the 2010-2011 point where it was, I think, Keith Burgess came in, got the Scotland junior manager in late and took a step back. What was that sort of period like? I suppose the squad just started to build back up towards.
Yeah, well, again, it was weird because again that second season that I was there, we got to the final before when Steve. The following season, that's when likes of Tam come back, Conrad come back, and Steph had come back. Again, there was boys, supposed better players coming back to the team, but from going from the high of being in the final and running Lithgow really, really close, I think we got knocked out pretty early on in that squad, and it was weird. You know what I mean?
It was Glenrothes or something, I'm sure. Aye. I'm sure it was. It was a Glenrothes or something.
Glenrothes, we got credit. You're thinking, what's so again? It was frustrating. You mean, and then, like you say, Budgie come in, and I was a bit. I hope it doesn't mind me saying this. You're watching this. I was a bit wary of Budgie to start with because I'd been in the Scotland junior team before. He became the manager, and he didn't pick me. And obviously he picked Tam, and I was sort of saying to Tam, "Look, why isn't he?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. He just there's just something he doesn't like you or doesn't fancy you." And so when he come in, I was all for it. You know, I wasn't going to hold any grudges to him, but I was very sort of wary to start with, thinking, "What's he going to do with me?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got a fairly good reputation here, but you mean I've been hearing things that he doesn't, maybe doesn't fancy me fully, but that was me. I made a point myself to show him, like, I should be in your team, in your Celtic team, and I should be in your Scotland team. So that year I sort of went and was like, I'm gonna show you, sort of thing. And he brought in again Super League proven players, but again frustrating because consolidating. The first season we were up, we finished mid-table, which again was a good effort for where we'd come from. You mean consolidating the league, but just a lot of my time has been sort of at Kelty has been frustrating because you can see the boys. For the teams that we've had, didn't really win much.
No, there was a lot of frustrating seasons, a lot of individual sort of wins amongst the team, and you could see that there was always sort of the foundation there to go on and be successful, but there was always sort of that missing bit, which I suppose we'll get on to towards the 13-14 years of your time at Kelty. Obviously, like you say though, when he came into the squad, he brought in a few different players. The likes Duffin, who ended up playing in front of you, of course, was already back. What were those seasons like? I think even one season, sort of towards the end, I think it came down to a relegation playoff. I think towards the end of the season as well. But it was also a season where I think it was the season you picked up a Player of the Year award and another Scotland cap as well. So it was a sort of, I imagine, a mixed season for you.
Yeah, no, again, personally, my time at Kelly was really, really good. Again, I was picking up, like you say, I was picking up Player of the Year awards. I was being recognised with Scotland and whatnot. But that playoff that season was just weird. Again, we got to the Scottish. Was that the year we got beat off Falkland Lake? Was that the season?
Aye, Ballingery.
Yeah, the game had been cancelled so many times, and again, by the time that game came, it was. I don't know if the boys froze that day or if, again, don't get me wrong, Auckland Lake were a very good team, but I don't know if we froze in that game because of who they supposedly were.
I think that was it was around about the time as well. It was some daft rules in junior football where if your game in the cup didn't go ahead, you weren't able to play a league fixture to fill it as well.
We were going weeks and weeks without a game.
Aye, and you ended up with a stack of games, I suppose, at the end of the season. That was back when New Central Park had its issues when it came to different weather, especially with flooding and what have you. But yeah, that last season as well, we spoke about before. You played under some brilliant managers. You still are. Some memorable ones throughout Kelly as well, with the likes of Leighton. You spent a bit of time, he says, at the end there under Courts, sort of when he took over after that sort of relegation battle, or around about that time. And you said playing under him, that was, I suppose, some of the best football that you experienced. What was it like playing under Tam?
Tam's. You've probably heard this before. Tam's a born winner. He does not do failure. He's a very, very driven guy, and it was that. I don't know what happened with Willie in Newbigin. He was the manager at the start of the season, and for whatever reason, it just didn't click. And I remember going away with Scotland actually, and Tam picked me up and was like, "Can just let you know, I've been offered the job at Kelty," and I was like, "Oh, congratulations, blah blah." Again, I was quite close with Tam, but he was sort of marking his boundaries as well, saying, "Look, I'm your friend, but at the same time, I'm now your manager. So you know what I mean. If I'm being harsh on you, it's only because I want you to do well."
Yeah.
To be fair, Tam was always harsh on me anyway. You know what I mean. He's harsh on everyone, but it's only because he wants you to do well. Very meticulous.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, so that came about. You, like we said, you had a really good season. A career at Kelty, and that season in particular, you had a really good season, and it ended up with East Fife coming calling as well. But like we sort of spoke about before we started recording, that was there had been a bit of a struggle and there'd been no sort of Super League wins. That was the season you moved on to East Fife, and I think you mentioned something about feeling like a bit of a jinx that sort of started with that move to East Fife.
Yeah, well, like before, any time I've ever moved from a club, the following season they went and won the league. So again, going back to the sort of last season at Kelty, it was a hard one because I was in the Scotland squad, and I knew what was coming next. You know what I mean? I'd spoke to Tam at great depth. You know what I mean? I knew what was coming, but at the same hand, I felt as if I had unfinished business senior-wise. But at the same time, I was talking with Tam, and I mean, I'd been speaking to him about it. I mean, Tam had come to me and with Greg Kuhn at the time, who was very connected. I mean, they were going to offer me a testimonial, so I was getting married that year as well. So I had like three things to juggle at that time. It was hard, I tell you. You know what I mean? I was drawn by going back senior because, like what we said earlier, I felt I had unfinished business there. But at the same hand, I knew what was coming at Kelty. I knew what was next, if you know what I mean. I knew that it was going to come to what it is now. And I knew that it was starting to lay the foundations for that. So it was a hard decision for me to make. And, I mean, but it never affected me on the park. But I just remember that last game in the playoff against Dalkeith. I just remember it was obviously we played them on I think it was a Friday night, and then we played them on the Tuesday, and it was weird because I told the boy, like I told Tam and everyone that I'd made my mind up that I was going to be moving on.
Yeah.
No through anything that the club could have done. I mean, I stayed with the club if it wasn't the fact that I had the opportunity to go back senior. Again, with my brother had been doing well at senior at that time as well, and he'd been sort of in the senior game, and I seen it as if I wanted that opportunity as well. You know what I mean? I was we're quite competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd seen him. He played in the Premier League. He played down in England, and I wanted to play as high as I could at that. And I was getting not towards the end of the game, but it was going to be it was a big decision. I was coming up for, I think, about 30. I was coming up for, and I was thinking, is it if it's going to happen, it'll happen this year. You know what I mean? So I plucked up the courage, and so many sleepless nights going to stay the twist. And I remember getting Player of the Year that year, and I remember Andy Forbes pulled me one side and came outside and congratulate me for winning the league. But it was like, are you sure this is the right decision? Blah 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 blah. And this, then you can get your testimony. You know what the club's going to be. And again, I was like, have I made the right decision? But I had to go with it. You know what I mean? I had to test myself. You know what I mean? I could never love myself and think, what if? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it would no doubt been a tough loss. No doubt about it for Kelty, and nobody would have wanted to see you go. But you're right, that sort of step up, it was calling, and it was an opportunity for you to test yourself at a higher level again. You ended up going to East Fife. Was that did you end up with choices, options, or was East Fife the one that stuck it to you, or did they really want you? How did it come about?
Not that I'm aware of. I may have had, you know what I mean, that was a lot of the time as well. Like, and knowing what I know now, there was times that there maybe clubs been interested in me before, but Kelty were looking after themselves, and they were like, nah. I was always saying to them, look, be honest with me, if there's anyone kicking about, looking, let me know. But they never. But Tam was again with me and Tam being that quite close as it was. It must have been hard for him because, on the one hand, he was saying, look, you need to be taking this opportunity, but at the same hand, I'm your manager and I want you to stay. So as far as I know, I think it was only East Fife that were interested, or they made it known they were really interested.
And so that move came around. We were obviously sorry to see you go at Kelty, and you started playing in the SPFL game for East Fife. What was that like? Was it sort of instant success straight in the starting lineup, or did you have to work up that first season?
It was a weird one, like, because as I say, the start of that season was mental because I was getting married, and like I'd worked my wedding round the junior football season, so I got married the middle week in June, and then was going off in honeymoon in there. But I signed for East Fife, and they were back training before we actually finished our playoff. You know what I mean? So I went away and having finished the season, got married, went and had my 2 week honeymoon, and then my first game, I had one training session on the Thursday. I got back the Wednesday, had a training session on the Thursday, and we had Fulham on the Saturday. I mean, from one training session into playing Fulham, who'd just been, I think they'd just been relegated from the Premier League at that time. and Scott Parker was playing for them, and then you're like, and Roddy Aga and boys like that.
Yeah.
You're like, that was it. I don't know if I got on the best of foot, because again it was a hard one for me, because I've been used to being the man. You know what I mean? I'd been used to knowing that I was going to play. And to be fair, they said, look, you're going to be the number one, but you're always sort of wary. And from where you come from, Kelty, a lot of boys, senior boys, look down on, like, say, your Lowland League or your at the time, boys moving up. I don't think it's as bad now, because Montrose, we've got a few boys that have come from the Lowland League. But again, I remember being at East Fife, and I remember Tam warning me of this, saying, look, it's going to be different for you. You know what I mean? You're highly thought of at Kelty, but you've got to be prepared for. You're just a player. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was a hard season. That, you know what I mean? I was playing, and then they had a young goalie on loan, and Jordan Miller, who's been at Kelty before a couple of years ago. He was got brought in as my number 2, and like he was at St Johnstone at the time. So St Johnstone were putting the manager under pressure to play their boy, or they were threatening to pull it back. So I was sort of in and out of the team. And again, for me, I wasn't used to that. You know what I mean? I was used to playing every week, and I didn't. So it was a hard season, that, and coupled with the fact that I was obviously still keeping an eye on how Kelty's results were going, and ended up winning the league. And I was like, oh. So
I can imagine, because obviously spoke to Ross Philp before, and he said sort of something similar, that I think he said he went to Bo'ness, and with a view sort of getting a league medal, and just it being the right move at the right time. Said that you and him had been there for a few seasons, and when you both left it, felt like a wee bit of a jinx as soon as she's left. Kelty went on and
because I was kind of looking at the Kelty results and going, I mean, they're going to end up winning the league. You know what I mean? I've been there 9 years, and kind of, I don't know if that was me, a wee bit selfish, going, that should have been me. You know what I mean? But we all get like that. But I remember that final season, the final games against for East Fife that season was against my brother. He was at Stennis at the time, and we played them in the playoffs. So that was the first time I played against him in a competitive game, and we ended up he ended up winning. We drew 1 each in the first game, and I think they won 2-1. Fash missed a chance when he was at East Fife, because I remember it to this day. All you had to do was stretch and get a big toenail on our side. He couldn't quite get there, and I was like, So at the end of the East Fife year, and there'd been rumours that there was sort of money problems at and around the club as well. Again, they were looking to cut losses, and I don't know if I was a high earner, but the fact that they offered to I was on a 2-year deal at the time, they sort of come to me and was like, again, we're looking for you to take a wage cut, and I was like, nah, that's no happening. I mean, I signed that deal when Phil see it out. Yeah. And I remember this scene that the first time the sort of manager had been ruthless, and we're like that, and Naismith was like to me, well, be prepared to sort of travel and no play then, if you're not prepared to take the wage cut. I was like, to me, that was, I didn't understand that at all, you know what I mean? Yeah. I was quite experienced at that. I just hadn't heard anything like that, you know what I mean? I'd never been in that position, and I was kind of thinking, what's going on here? But I stuck to my guns. I held out and was like, no, I'm not taking it. So eventually they come back to me and said, look, if you can find a club, we'll let you go. You know what I mean? We'll just rip up your contract and we'll say our goodbyes. So again, I went on holiday. I remember I had a couple of weeks to sort of get my next move, you know what I mean, wherever that was going to be, because it was weird, because at that time I was highly thought of, like Kelty in the sort of juniors,
Yeah.
And I knew I could go back to a junior team, but having left, I didn't want to be seen left and be seen to crawling back to you couldn't hack it, you know what I mean? So I wanted to stay senior because I think Kelty would have taken me back, and I think I was still in contact with Tam and like Dean and that as well. So and I knew they were looking to progress again, and I was sort of, what do I do? Getting doubt, but then Arbroath come in for me, and I remember being in the hotel, the airport departures lounge, and I remember having just signed, and I went from signing a contract straight on holiday. It was nice to have that relax, and you can relax on holiday knowing that you've got yourself sorted. But that day before we went, the night before, it was just manic. You know what I mean? I'm having to meet up with, go to East Fife and sign my release papers, but I wasn't allowed to say who I was signing for, even though they probably knew. But I wasn't allowed to say anything. I was just to go in, and I had to put it in. I had to formally do it. I had to email them and say, look, I want to be released from my contract, go in and sign it. And it's just another side of football that I've never seen before. You know what I mean? It was just, it was weird.
Absolutely. So that obviously that meant that team ended up being Arbroath. What was that like? Because that's obviously, it was a lot of characters in that club. So what was it like going to Arbroath?
I really enjoyed Arbroath. Again, I was going there as a number one. I knew I was going to be playing. It was good. I really enjoyed it. It was, like you said, there was characters there, like Bobby Lynn and boys like that. And I knew Bobby, having played against him when he was getting paid an absolute fortune when he was at Ballingery before it all went defunct. So I knew the boys, some of the boys, and obviously Hizzy was the assistant manager at the time, Steve Hislop, who was at Bo'ness. I knew him from playing against them, so it was set up. Whereas I knew folk, and obviously playing in that year as well. I knew some of the boys from playing against them. So I was ready to go. I was ready to push. And Arbroath the season before should have really won the league. They were miles ahead at Christmas, and I was thinking, right. I want to make a push. I want to win things. You know what I mean? I want to win the league, and it was another tough season. Personally, again, I've done quite well that season. I was in the running for the Player of the Year, and I was actually in the middle of discussing a new contract with the manager, and he got the sack, and Dick Campbell come in, and he sort of guided us, made sure that we didn't go there, because at one point we were looking like we were going to get relegated. So it was a frustrating thing, because we shouldn't have been where we were. That season reminded me of a Kelty season. We shouldn't have been where we were, but we were. You know what I mean? And it was nice. Having to scrap. It's not enjoyable sometimes in football when you're having to scrap all the time and fight for every point.
No, absolutely, and obviously, if supporters are a massive part of football, and if they sort of know that you're capable at a higher level, they're going to let you know about it. And I suppose that can be the tricky bit. But I suppose no supporter's probably going to beat you up as much as yourself when you know you should be performing it or finishing at a higher position in the league. And like you say, manager change came in, and that can be. That's a massive point for any player, I think, because any manager is going to come in with their own sort of idea about how they want to set up and what type of players they want. And sometimes it can mean you could be on the fringe and you could find yourself in the first team, or like yourself, you could find yourself as a first team regular to looking for a new team. And that's how I suppose a switch sort of came about for yourself again after just the season. And there's no, for speaking to you and obviously seeing your time at Kelty, there's no doubt that you're a loyal player, and you would quite happily, and you've been at Montrose for 5 seasons now as well, that you would rather hang about in the same club, and you like that continuity. But unfortunately, a move did come around, and it was to Montrose in the end.
That's like me going from Kelty to Hillabeath.
Yeah.
So
It's a local derby.
It's a big derby. You mean, and I mean, I remember when I remember celebrating and I was getting, which I now know that the Montrose fans, and they just give every opposition goalie absolutely tight. But I remember celebrating when we beat them and just having a bit of banter with them. I remember like when we played signed for them in the first game, and they were sort of they were welcoming. There was also that bit of banter. They were like, "All right, I can. What about you? Can 6 months ago can tell us to get up you, and now you're playing for us." Blah blah blah. So it was funny. So, and again, it was difficult because Jordan had went from East Fife and he went back to St Johnstone. He was a number one at Montrose at the time. So I got told at the time I was signing with Montrose that I might have to sort of fight for my place because he'd finished the season quite well. And I was like, right, okay, because there was other clubs in that interested as well, but I'd actually agreed to go to another club. And I remember being on holiday and getting a phone call saying it had fallen through. So I had to sort of go back to Montrose and say, look, it's fallen through. Would you consider me again? And that was a bit, because you're off on the wrong foot. So I don't know if it was them sort of, because Jordan had finished the season quite well and they were sort of testing me saying, look, and they were like, I obviously weren't our first choice. So I don't know if they were testing me a bit as well with that, saying, maybe no start the season as number one, but you push, you get in it, and once you're in, it's up to you to keep your place, sort of thing. Which again, is not something that I was used to. You know what I mean? I was used to playing, and I'm very impatient. If I'm not playing, I want to be playing. You know what I mean? I hate watching football. Like I don't mind watching it if you're not playing, but if you're involved, I don't know. I can't stand it. You know what I mean? I just find it hard to switch off.
Absolutely. It ended up obviously being the right move in the end, the move to Montrose. But what was it? So what was it like that first season where there was a fight to get yourself into the first team, and yeah, like you mentioned already, joining a rival team as well must have had a few struggles.
Struggles. It was more maybe on that point. I mean, the club were brilliant. Me, they still are.
Yeah.
No, but the first it was Paul Hegarty that signed me at Montrose, and then he got the sack maybe just before sort of the end of November time. The first year, we were sitting sort of second bottom again. We were thinking, you mean the previous season, Montrose had they narrowly avoided the being relegated into the lowland. No, they put in the Highland League actually. They beat Aurora. So you mean that they've had the highs, say that maybe the lows of that, but the highs of winning the game. They didn't want to be in that yo-yo in that team. So for whatever reason, they got rid of Hegarty, which Hegarty was the one that signed me. I'm thinking, here we go again. You mean another manager? Is he going to like me? Again, these feelings that I've never ever had to deal with. You're thinking,
yeah.
And I was thinking, nah. So Stuart Petrie come in that time, and we ended up pulling away from the bottom, and we ended up fourth and getting into the playoffs against Peterhead actually to go up. But I think we drew one each with them in the first game and then got beat. We got beaten the second leg or whatever. So again, getting into that team, finishing the season well and getting into the playoffs. I was ready to go for the next. You know, the next. The manager had come in. He'd set his stall. You know, he made it clear that he wasn't wanting to be down and around about that in bottom, especially the pyramid system now. You know what I mean? He didn't want to be sort of down there.
That trapdoor, if you like.
You mean you see some teams? You mean you look like so you're Stirling and that, and they're still in the Lowland League yet. Albeit they're pushing this year. They've had a bit of finance chucked back at them. Again, the incentives are there, like the Kelty, your Bonnie, your East Stirlings. All your teams are wanting to get into that League Two, into the structure. I mean,
absolutely. Obviously we talk about how Kelty and the Lowland League are looking shortly, but it's not. You mentioned it earlier how it was sort of looked down upon the levels below SPFL, but you can definitely see there's a switch now, and that's becoming apparent with your Edinburgh Cities, Cove Rangers going up, and your Berwick and Shire teams going down. That the teams deserve to be there. But like I say, we'll get onto that shortly. For your time at Montrose, so it was a bit of another frustrating one in terms of reaching the playoffs, taking it to a second leg and losing it. So at Montrose, things did start to look up though, and I suppose you tried to dodge the playoff by going right to the top.
That's the manager's first full season. I mean, we had a feel good. It was a feel good going into that summer. I mean, with the second half of the season, we've done really well, and then you're still thinking, what can we do? And then you see in the summer they were signing boys, and they were signing Sean Dillon. You mean, you're thinking, again, obviously a very good career at Dundee United. You mean, really good player, and I got on quite a lot. And you're thinking, right, obviously the board and that they would never admit it, but you're thinking they're signing the calibre of boys like Sean Dillon. He doesn't want to be kicking about League 2, even though he's supposedly coming to. He doesn't want to be kicking around there forever. You know what I mean? So you're thinking, can we go for the league? You know what I mean? We'd never admit it, but again that season, Greg, we crossed paths again. Greg was at Peterhead that year, so and it ended up that year being a straight fight between ourselves and Peterhead for the league.
That must have been exciting. I suppose two brothers. I suppose on those opposite teams. But you mentioned the competitiveness of it earlier on. That must have been it must be brilliant to have been in that position, and I suppose the outcome must have been all right as well. It must have been quite nice.
It was good for a change. You know what I mean? He's always had that one-upmanship on me growing up. You know what I mean? He played in the SPL, and he'd been captain in Scotland under 21s. You know what I mean? In his best man speech, I mean, he gave me it. I mean, he's just been that. I'm the younger one, and I've done this, and I can just all light-hearted banter. But you know what I mean? I was determined. You know what I mean? I was wanting to win that league. You know what I mean? I was wanting something to show for myself. You know what I mean? And again, I'd left East Fife. Again, this current team. I left East Fife. They won the league. I left Arbroath to go to Montrose. Arbroath won the league. So I'm thinking, when's it going to be my turn? You know what I mean? When am I going to win a league? You know what I mean? Every team I've ever left, the following season, they've went and won the league.
No, but you stuck around in Montrose a few seasons, and that came about. Was that the same season where you started to pick up a few sort of personal accolades as well as the season that we won the league, I got the clean sheet record for the club clean sheet record. I got 18 clean sheets that season. And I think I've got the record for the most consecutive away clean sheets as well. So that was a good year that year. The only thing I got frustrated that year was it come to the team of the year. The one that the players vote for, and my brother got it. So I was second to him. But in the Ladbrokes one, they give it a team of the year. I got in that as well. So I could have taken that. You know what I mean? I got in a team of the year. I got my winner's medal, and I got that accolade of
getting the clean sheet record, and I think I ended up walking away with the fans player of the year that year as well. So
that's brilliant. That's some brilliant achievements, and obviously still at Montrose and still going well there when we can actually play football.
We're in the playoffs. I mean, it's progression year by year. We're doing well. We've consolidated ourselves as a League One team. I mean, I think the club, they'll never admit it, but they want to. They've seen that what Arbroath are doing. I mean, they see themselves as wanting to be in the best part-time team. You know what I mean? Arbroath and Alloa at the moment, and they're part-time teams in the Championship. I think long term, that's what Montrose sort of want to see themselves competing against. You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, they'll never come out and admit that, really. But you hear the manager; he wants to be he wants to play as high as he can, manage as high as he can as well. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And obviously, you're going to be dead busy, still playing at Montrose, and say to yourself, the wee boy, he's starting to get to a stage where he's going to start, needing that sort of guidance for his footballing career as well. Should he go down that path? How much time have you been able to spend keeping an eye on Kelty and how they've done over the last few seasons?
I still look out for the result every week. You know what I mean? It's something that's just, you know what I mean, I've always done. I've always looked out for the result. I always see how well they're going.
And what's your thoughts, obviously, when you go back to the years that you played with them in the juniors and you look at where Kelty are now? They've made that switch over to the senior game, and for, I suppose, large chunks so far, they've been able to dominate. We're seeing a few junior teams come into it now and make it definitely quite challenging. But what's been your take on watching? Is it something you thought you would see Kelty, a path you'd see them go down?
Yeah, I'll say because like going back to when I was there, I knew the way the club was going, and that's why it was what I do. Did I stay and be part of that journey, or go and make a pathway for myself? That was I knew this was coming. I mean, maybe not to the extent that it is. Not to the extent how quickly it's been. You mean it's developed on an upwards scale pretty quick. You know what I mean? They had the obviously the East of Scotland League. That's a sort of step down to come back up, if you know what I mean. It's hard games, and you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You mean you didn't win by a certain amount, and you're like, well, you must have been rubbish today. You know what I mean? And so there was that, and then obviously coming into the Lowland League, sort of held their own there, and obviously before it all stopped, they were top of the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of seasons in a row as well, where I suppose you've been one of the biggest victims of this whole pandemic in football terms. But I definitely on the journey, you can tell yourself, you obviously say you were torn at the time, you mentioned it, Ali. You can see, I think it'd be, I'd maybe get, if you speak to Kelty fans, they'd say that you should have stayed at Kelty purely for selfish reasons, that they wanted you to stay at Kelty, and I'm sure you'd still be a part of that. But when you look at the way your career's evolved and the part you're playing in Montrose's journey at the moment, there's no doubt that you've made the correct choices. When you sort of look at the future for yourself, though, what do you see as your journey? Obviously, I imagine, like most people, do you want to play as long as you can, or?
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, I still want to play as long as I can, and I don't know if you get to a certain age and folks start looking at you going, is he quite this, is he quite that? But again, going back to inspirations, I look at like the Buffon again, still playing at 40 odd year old. Even Luke in Scotland, you've got McGregor and Gordon still playing at a very, very high level in the age. So I still want to, and I mean, touch wood, I've never had any real serious injuries. I'm not one that sort of carries weight, you know what I mean? I'm probably still the same build as I was when I was at Kelty, you know what I mean? I'm still still nothing's changed. You know what I mean? I'm still relatively fit. I think, you know what I mean? I look after myself. I still want to play as long as I can. But
and what about sorry, on you go.
No, I was going to say, some into coaching wise, I don't know if it's something that I want to do. At the moment, I think I do, but then again, I think to myself, it's another big commitment, and it's not as easy now. You know what I mean? You've got to go through all your badges, and that's a cost. You know what I mean? If you can get somebody to pay for it, then fair enough. But again, it's a lot of work, and
yeah.
I've never really. I know folks used to say you should always plan for it before, but I've never really given that a thought. You know what I mean? I'm still very much still playing.
Oh, I think you spend your life planning. Things aren't always going to go the way you think, and there's nothing wrong with not. I just always find it interesting to find out. I suppose what lies next for players. When the career's over, but you've still got plenty of years in you, undoubtedly, and like you say, you've got somebody there that you might end up doing a one-on-one coaching and putting him through his football as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting once football gets back up and running. It'll be great to see your career continue to progress. I've no doubt as well we'll get you on the pod again in the future, and fingers crossed might even see it in New Central Park, even if it's in a sort of spectator capacity at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I've never really been back. You know what I mean? I've never really been back to the ground. Is again because of football. I'm still playing football, and like at the time when I was I'd left. You mean you want to go back, but you didn't want to go back because folk are like I think I've been to one game since I've been away, and that was like the Christmas game, the January after the first I left. It was 2015 or whatever. I was at one game, but again, I'm not being funny, but sometimes maybe not so much now when I'm maybe older, but I sort of stayed away because folk, you know, you were highly thought of. Folk would put one and one together and get three and think, is he coming back? You know what I mean? and then you get the questions where are you coming back? It's like, again, as I say, I've been back to one game since I left, and I've been to one training session with Tam. That was like a Thursday night before we had a game. Our training was cancelled for whatever reason, and I sort of said to Tam, look, can I come in and just for training facilities? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was it. I had folk can come up to me and say, "Are you coming back? And I was like, no, look, I'm no plans to come back at the moment. I mean, I enjoy my time, but it's no fair for me to, I mean, can come in and be a distraction. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, but no, fingers crossed. At some point, you do get an opportunity to come along and see the new team in action and enjoy it from, I suppose, the other side of the barrier. Look, thanks very much for coming on and joining us today. Like I say, we'll definitely be getting you back on again in the future.
Thank you very much, and all the best for the season when it gets back up and running.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.